As to count one, we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty, so say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, on this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of aggravated child abuse, verdict as to count two, we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty, so say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of aggravated manslaughter of a child, verdict as to count three, we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty, so say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of providing false information to a law enforcement officer, verdict as to count four, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of providing false information to a law enforcement officer as charged in the indictment. So say we all, dated Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of providing false information to a law enforcement officer, verdict as to count five. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of providing false information to a law enforcement officer as charged in the indictment. So say we all, dated Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of providing false information to a law enforcement officer, verdict as to count six. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of providing false information to a law enforcement officer as charged in the indictment. So say we all, dated Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of providing false information to a law enforcement officer, verdict is to count seven. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of providing false information to a law enforcement officer as charged in the indictment. So say we all, dated Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson.
Madam Clerk, you may poll the jury.
Juror number one, were these your true and correct verdicts? Pardon? Juror number one, were these your true and correct verdicts? Not correct. Were they all your true and correct verdicts? Yes. Juror number two, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number three, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number four, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number five, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number six, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number seven, were these your true and correct verdicts? Juror number 8, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 9, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 10, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 11, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
And juror number 12, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Will counsel and the defendant approach the podium? Not all the counsel, but just representative sample. Casey Marie Anthony, the jury of your peers, having found you not guilty as to the charge contained in count 1 of the indictment, murder in the first degree, at this time I will adjudge you to be not guilty. As to count 2, the crime of aggravated child abuse, a jury of your peers having found you to be not guilty, the court will adjudge you to be not guilty of the crime contained in count 2. As to count 3, aggravated manslaughter of a child, the jury of your peers having found you not guilty, I will adjudge you to be not guilty of that count. As to counts 4, 5, 6, and 7, providing false information to a law enforcement officer, I will adjudge you to be guilty of those counts in order that you be fingerprinted in open court at this time. has to be an open court. Okay, Mr. Baez, Mr. Mason, will you be prepared to go to sentencing Thursday or Friday of this week? Okay, then we'll set sentencing Thursday at 9 a.m. in this courtroom. Okay, are there any other matters that we need to take up at this time?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, on behalf of the citizens of the 9th Judicial Circuit, I would like to express my sincere thanks and appreciation for your service as jurors. You're all residents of Pinellas County, Florida. And we came over there, met with you, questioned you, and took you away from your families for a very extended period of time. And for that, I say thank you. As I told you when I first spoke with you, in talking about jury service, that one of the most important obligations of citizenship, in my opinion, was service on a jury. I tell you, it was very important that if we believe in that constitutional provision that provides a right to trial by jury, that it was important for people to serve no matter what that sacrifice would be. As you can tell by some of the questions that some folks answered, a lot of people did not want to serve. You knew it would be a hardship, and you were candid with the attorneys. You answered all their questions, and you served. And for that, we thank you. I would also wish to advise you of some very special privileges enjoyed by jurors. No juror can ever be required to talk about the discussions that occurred in the jury room except by court order. For many centuries, our society has relied upon juries for consideration of difficult cases. We have recognized for hundreds of years that a jury's deliberations, discussions, and vote shall remain their private affairs as long as they wish it. Therefore, the law gives you a unique privilege not to speak about your jury work. Although you are at liberty to speak with anyone about your deliberations, you are also at liberty to refuse to speak to anyone. A request to discuss either your verdict or your deliberations may come from those who are simply curious or from those who might seek to find fault with you. From the media, from attorneys, or elsewhere, it will be up to you to decide whether to preserve your privacy as jurors. Again, thank you. You're hereby discharged, and I will see you shortly back in the jury room. Thank you. You may be seated. This court is in recess.
And there you see Casey Anthony. Recap, she was found not guilty of first-degree murder, not guilty of aggravated manslaughter, not guilty of aggravated child abuse. She is there hugging her attorneys, Her mother and father were in the courtroom. There was no reaction. They didn't hug each other. They didn't hold each other. They walked up, they got up and they walked out just moments after the verdict was read. Caylee Anthony found not guilty on the most serious charges of murder, manslaughter, and child abuse. She was found guilty of lying to investigators. She will be serving time for those lies, but that is a misdemeanor, and it is a much shorter sentence. Just watch the reaction there of Caylee Anthony. Jose Baez got a lot of criticism, saying he did not try this case well, but he got the outcome, the best possible outcome, it would seem, from the perspective of Caylee Anthony. I want to go to our legal panel. We have a good one. We are working with Jeff Toobin, Holly Hughes, Richard Herman, Deborah Opry. First of all, Jeff, there in New York, looking at her here, what is your reaction to this verdict?
She won and the government lost. I mean, those 4 counts you mentioned that she was convicted of, as you say, are misdemeanors. In most courtrooms in the United States, if you're convicted of misdemeanors, you do not get a prison sentence. So the fact that the sentencing is just coming on Thursday, 2 days from now, suggests that there will not be much to this sentencing. This is a woman who was looking at the possibility of the death penalty. They sought the death penalty against this woman, and she got convicted of 4 misdemeanors. This is a historic rejection of the prosecution's case, an enormous victory, for better or worse, for Caylee Anthony.
So, Jeff, just so I'm clear, are you telling us that basically Caylee Anthony could serve no prison time?
Oh, I think that would certainly be my expectation. I mean, if she were convicted of 4 misdemeanors in New York State, she would never get any jail time. She'd get probation. There are almost no prisoners in New York State, which is the state I know best, who are in prison for misdemeanors. We're sort of learning on the fly here. If there are others who know better about Florida law, I hope they jump in. But misdemeanors are not prison cases, in my experience, in New York and in most other states. And I would expect she would not get any jail time.
Plus, not only that, but she served 3 years. She's already served 3 years.
She won't get any time in 3 years. I don't know why her lawyers didn't make a motion to get her out today.
All right, interesting. Well, Deborah Opry, I want to bring you in as well. What was your expectation? What is your reaction?
I feel like I was reliving the Michael Jackson trial because I'm the one who went out and said he was going to get acquitted. Caylee Anthony, I thought the evidence was overwhelming, but there's 2 things that stuck in my mind. The jury was tired. I don't think they're ever going to have a consensus that the state was able to prove its case of murder against Caylee. And I think at some point in time, the jury might have turned on Jeff Ashen. He came across laughing, arrogant, and I think that went against him. And I think Mr. Baez, obviously, he got the jury to believe in him and his client. And it was an astounding day. But our system works, and I'm very proud as a defense attorney that under the Constitution, you are innocent until proven guilty. Caylee Anthony should have been released today, so I'm surprised the attorneys didn't make an immediate motion for her to be released today.
Richard Herman, you're sitting out there in Las Vegas. You thought that she was going down on all counts. In fact, she did not. She was found not guilty. What's your reaction?
Well, I just passed out. I'm reviving myself. But like I was saying, Baez just did a wonderful job in his defense of her. No, I have to give my apologies. I was wrong. Baez was right. This was a win. He brought his case with passion. I didn't always agree with his tactics. Kind of went against the rule of thumb. But what is the rule of thumb in a defense of a murder case? Look, this is an outstanding victory. The jury, I agree with Deborah. First, I agree with Deborah and Jeff. Why didn't they make an application to release her right now? I mean, she's going to get time served, has to, on Thursday. Number 2.